Hi folks, I am Devok and welcome to the Artificers Guild, the home of all things Artifact, and welcome back to Hindsight, our new gameplay analysis and review series. Now, for episode 2, we're going to give you the real, authentic feel as to how this will work with you guys in the future by just looking at one perspective. In this game, we're taking a look at a challenger up against SUNSfan. The challenger is the perspective we'll be taking, and they're using the green and black economy ramp deck, whereas they're going up against SUNSfan using the red-green Cleave deck. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. You haven't missed much on turn 1 here, just a Bronze Legionnaire being placed in lane 1 by SUNSfan, and there's going to be very little played early on, especially from our point of view. You can see we don't actually have any 3 mana cards, so at the moment we're just sort of crossing our fingers and hoping that we can get a good play for next turn. Now we do have Pick Off available, which is a 4 mana damaging card that you can use across lanes. So we can also be looking to see where we might want to use that next turn. In the shop we do have 7 gold, so we might be tempted by a leather armor or a potion of knowledge. Both are pretty decent here. Leather armor allows you to scale a bit better against red Cleave, but potion of knowledge also allows you to draw into potentially some of your lower cost cards so you can actually use something. Now we get to deploy Riley here. We do get to see where they're deploying their heroes. Unfortunately I'm not going to be able to block that off, but we get to choose where to put Riley, and we are going to double down in the middle lane. We've already done a bit of damage there, and I do quite like this. You should be able to hold on to the right lane. Maybe you're giving up the left lane, but middle lane is where you're going to capitalise and win early. Which is exactly how this sort of green-black amping deck goes, because you're not going to have that much damage from green early on. Now we have drawn a payday, so we really should be looking to use that where possible. And our Potion of Knowledge nets us a Savage Wolf, which is fantastic for this turn. Perhaps not in this lane though, because there is a lot of high damage coming out from the enemy, and you really want your Savage Wolf to be able to ramp up into that late game. But in our next lane is the only place we're going to be able to play black cards, because we put both our black heroes together. And this is something that can be a little bit annoying. If you've only got 2 cards of one colour, you really want to try and avoid placing them in the same lane like this. So I know when we were deploying Riley, it seemed like a good idea. Double down in this lane and get some damage going. But you do have Pick Off, and we didn't have Savage Wolf or Payday before this turn, so you knew Pick Off was your only card that you could play. It might have been a nice idea to put Riley then in the first lane, so that you had 2 options to use Pick Off, and you would now have 2 options for Payday. Or for example, if you played Riley in the 3rd and final lane, you'd now be able to use Payday in that lane, potentially getting even more gold. Because an early Payday is definitely the way to use this deck, by the way. But unfortunately we're left with 2 black heroes in one lane, so we're going to have to choose, do we want Pick Off or Payday? Now personally, I think I prefer Pick Off here. You're not going to get much gold out of Payday. Pick Off though, I mean, you don't use it in this lane. You definitely don't use it in this lane. Axe is too high. You could use it to kill off this Bronze Legion, and that might not be a bad idea. Oh, you're just going to use it to kill off the creep. I kind of like that, but the instant reply, drop in a Parallel Vanguard, and you have to be wary of that. Using your removal against creeps, just melee creeps, against a deck that has a lot of its own creeps in it is a bit of a risky move. Now that Parallel Vanguard did take a massive hit from Riley, but Riley only gets +2 damage against towers and heroes, so units against Riley are fantastic, which is why you see the Parallel Vanguard being able to block her there. In this final lane, we are going to start developing that Savage Wolf. That's an interesting place to deploy. I mean, I guess you weren't going to be able to deploy it anywhere else. You do eat 4 damage, but Savage Wolves can really scale up, so I would have liked to see him potentially hold on to that and find a better place to put it. You weren't going to lose much health there, and you've got Revtel convoys coming up next turn, and they are absolutely fantastic. Now to go back on what I was saying about last turn, I'd love to see Chen in the middle lane here, because you assume, we can see differently, you assume the enemy SUNSfan are going to try and defend. He's not going to, but I would not say the challenger misplayed if he puts Chen in the middle lane here, which he goes ahead and does. So this is going to be unfortunate because the champion SUNSfan is going to completely ignore middle lane, which is a smart move by him and a good read, but it's not completely over. There are definitely things, like I said, you can do this turn, with Revtel Convoy being the main option. So we see SUNSfan using a Celemania's Favour in that final lane now. He's going to have a big boost there, So you really need to capitalise now in these other two lanes. He's already doubled down with the Legion Commander, now he's got a Celemanes over there. You absolutely have to make sure that this lane and the middle lane are yours. So this first lane, you are currently losing it, so dropping another unit like a Reptile Convoy would not be a bad idea. I would actually like to see you start capitalising on this lane, because you're going to lose Rick's next turn. So you need something here to at least hold the fort. But he is going to pass and allow SUNSfan to continue. Now you've really got to take a step back at times and remember that you're not just playing one lane. You have to win 2 lanes, or you have to double down in a lane, which is very rare. So let's say you are definitely aiming to win 2 lanes. You're winning middle lane, you see SUNSfan has 2 heroes against your 1 in the final lane, and he has a Celemanes favour, which means for the rest of the game, he's got a 2 mana advantage over you. Now, are you more likely to win that lane, the last one, or are you more likely to win this first lane where perhaps you feel a little bit more going for you? Now, you do get Rix back next turn, so that's fantastic. He can come back in there. As for this middle lane, you don't need to do too much to secure it. The Reptile Convoy is maybe a little bit of overkill, but if you can bait something out from SUNSfan, I'm okay with it, to be honest. We need to make sure we're using up his resources, and he does drop a Smeagol Blacksmith, which is an interesting idea. He is effectively making sure that Farven doesn't leave this lane. By buffing him up with armor, he's going to stay in that lane for a little bit longer, even after you've taken the tower. So perhaps a little misplayer, and you were quite lucky in that your Reptile Convoy did get some value. Now in this final lane, Truth to Power, not useful because they have 2 units, and Reptile Convoy, I really would have liked to see one of these Reptile Convoys in the first lane. These convoys are fantastic, especially in this deck. If you focus on getting that gold, which you now have 7, now you have 8. Okay, do not spend your gold here. Do not spend your gold. You don't even have a Time Portal Scroll, so there's no point. Please do not. I know Poaching Knife looks good, but you're about to get a swing if you payday with your Reptile Convoys. Poaching Knife is great to bring you up to... Thank you. So Poaching Knife is great to bring you up to a point where you can use payday if you don't yet have it, but if you already have payday, you should be looking to capitalize on it. Now, Rix, he almost needs to go in that first lane, but because you've committed your Reptile Convoy to the far right lane, I think that's the play now, and it is, yeah. So I personally, last round, would have liked to see the Reptile Convoy in the first lane, because you knew that the third lane was basically over with the +2 mana advantage. But you forced up SUNSfan to commit to this first lane now, so he's going to waste... You can maybe get him to waste a couple more resources here. He is only getting 2 damage through thanks to that incredibly lucky arrow on the Bronze Legionnaire there. So he might spend some more resources here, but he's probably just looking to other lanes to see if he's got any sort of abilities he can cast. Maybe he's got a Nether Ward that he's going to place in the middle lane. Now he's going to start developing a Savage Wolf, which also gets a poor arrow. Oh, SUNSfan, that is very unlucky there. For those of you that don't know, there is a 25% chance for an arrow to point to the side. So if you're placing a unit on the edge like that, there's a 25% chance that it'll point to the enemy unit that's diagonally across from him, sorry. And there's a 75% chance that he'll be attacking the tower. Now in this mid lane, the roles are reversed. SUNSfan is going to try and bait some sort of resources out of you, and you don't want to spend resources, you just want to win. Which you do, so very well played there. And you even managed to get Phantom Assassin killed off, which is a good thing. Unfortunately, you don't use payday. Why didn't you use payday? I'm just going to quickly rewind this. Why didn't we use payday here? So you knew you were going to... You passed first. So I guess you had initiative, you passed first, because you wanted to be able to react if SUNSfan did something, but you don't really have anything to react with. If you cast an ability, all you can do is Truth to Power, which at that point is too late. He's already done the damage, you can't post-silence something. So I really would have liked a payday here. In fact, I would have absolutely adored a payday here, which would mean your Reptile Convoys would be that much stronger moving into this next phase. And I think at this point you're looking at this board thinking, there's 6 mana there that I didn't use. Now you do have initiative in this final lane, so... And SUNSfan really would have liked the initiative here, because he does now have 8 mana. which means things like Time of Triumph can come out, but he is just equipping units with items. So, and another almost wasted Savage Wolf here. You really, like, Savage Wolf is such a good card as we see him use Duel and completely just annihilate Lycan. You really need to make better use of these Savage Wolves. Every turn they survive, they gain +1 attack and +2 health, which means every turn they survive, they get an entire Metacrete's worth of health and 1 attack. These units can really start ramping up and up and up and becoming much stronger. And at this point, I think at this point you need to really think something is going wrong here. You've already won the middle lane, which is great, but the left lane and the right lane, or you've won the second lane and the first lane and the third lane, are going awry for you. Something isn't working here, and you really need to bring it back from the brink. You're gonna lose the right lane, but that's where you've committed your Reptile Convoy there. But it only has 5 health left. I think I'm going to pause it here so we can see the whole thing. So we're in a bit too deep here. We've won the middle lane already. Now you've got to cut your losses. You are going to lose one of these 2 lanes this turn, if not both of them. So what can you do now, and what should you have done? Well, I'll start with what can you do now. Let's be a bit optimistic here. You've got a Book of the Dead, so you can buff up one of your heroes. Nothing new is coming for you this turn. You can't move anything around, so you're looking at Rix and saying, Rix, you are going to win this lane for me. So you need to get initiative in that final lane, and you need to Book of the Dead. Or no, sorry, you need to Hand of the God in that final lane. Because red-green Cleave decks use Duel and they use Berserker's Call to kill your units before the combat phase. So he will Duel or Berserker's Call your Rix and then get free hits on your tower. So you need to make sure Rix survives. That is the only way that you're surviving this round. Now if we look back in time a little bit retrospective here, as hindsight might lead on to, you really had a chance to win this game. The second lane was yours. The third lane was SUNSfan's. The first lane was a coin flip. And you didn't put any heroes there. I really would like to see Riley go there during your second round, and Chen in your third round go there as well. I think you overcommitted to this mid lane, and you committed to a right lane which you should have just left and just completely discarded. And this is going to be something difficult for a lot of players that haven't been following Artifact or haven't played similar games to Artifact to sort of understand. In fact, maybe even the Dota players understand this better. In Artifact, we have dead lanes. There will be a lane at some point, probably quite early on, in which the enemy has focused their resources and you cannot win. Now, don't get me wrong, you can play heroes and units and whatever there to delay them so that they can't start focusing somewhere else, but that is, for all intents and purposes, a dead lane. You need to make sure that you're doing equal or better in the other 2 lanes, otherwise the game is over. This is quite a common thing in Dota, not so much recently, but there used to be an off lane or a dead lane where you would literally just be there to try and gain experience and survive for as long as you can. And it's a little bit like that in Artifact. You want to survive in the dead lane, you don't want to win a dead lane. But the other 2 lanes, you have to win if you're operating a dead lane. Here we tried to win the dead lane, and putting that Reptile Convoy there hasn't really achieved us anything. It's delayed it, definitely, but Reptile Convoys are one of your biggest spikes in this deck, at least your earlier spikes. You'll be looking at Thunderhide packs soon, but you're only just about to get into the next round. So in essence, I think a lot of new players, you really need to take this view of the screen, zoom out once in a while and say, which is my dead lane? Okay, it's that one. I'm going to stop putting resources there and make sure I win the other 2. And I think if you can do that, you're going to do absolutely fine in Artifact. But let's get on with the game. So we're into round 5. So you're still at 7 mana, I believe, in round 5. So you don't quite have your big spike in Thunderhide pack yet. But you do have Hand of God. Unfortunately, you don't have any Divine Purpose. I don't know if you have that in this deck or not. But you're looking at Hand of God to get you through here. Obviously, you can do nothing in this lane. This lane is just, this swing is going to hit. And he's even used Celemane in his favour to get the benefit of the mana out of this lane. Unfortunately, something you couldn't do. So, in this lane, you basically are just looking to get your heroes killed. I'd potentially use Celemane's favour You do have initiative in the final lane, which is actually vitally important, so don't do anything. I would have really liked you to not do anything there. Oh, I hope SUNSfan tries to do something here. If SUNSfan doesn't cast something here, you've lost the game. Probably lost the game. Oh, and yeah, okay, so he did pass, yeah. So you pass again, he passes, he has initiative, and then we get a duel I'm expecting. Wait for it. Suspense is building, and there it is, duel. So GG, SUNSfan, he played a very good game there. And like I said, you did play a good game. Your placement of cards were pretty good. Your use of initiative was actually really good until that very last second there, which you didn't quite figure out that you would almost end up losing the game. And there we have it, the final hit. The tower is dead, and SUNSfan wins. So yeah, as I was saying, your use of initiative was actually really good until the end there. Whenever SUNSfan had initiative, you'd try and use what little mana you had, and whenever you needed initiative, you tried to get it. I didn't see you using Chen's ability, so another issue a lot of new players are having is actually using those active abilities. So make sure you are using that, even if your Chen's about to die. It's always great to get a creep over onto your side. It just removes a bit of tempo from the enemy. And finally, we've already spoken a lot about the dead lane and analysing where you can win, but you also need to remember to play to your win condition, your specific win condition, which for this deck is getting gold online, for which you need to make sure your black heroes are well placed, so you can use Payday. So takeaways from this are great initiative control until the very, very last lane in the last round where it really mattered, but otherwise really, really good use there. Great unit positioning. The cards you were actually playing in lane, you played really well. You saw what you had to do when in order to get an advantage, and I like that. However, you weren't playing for your win condition. You didn't get a single Payday off, even though you had it turn 2. Yeah, turn 2 you had Payday and you didn't use it the entire game. That is one of your biggest win conditions. Along with your Revtail convoys, which you put in precarious lanes, or lanes that you'd already won. And of course, finally, analyse and find that dead lane. Once you find the dead lane, you can win the other two, and you, my friend, are going to win a lot of artifact games. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Hindsight. If you like this video and you'd like to see some more, then here's a recent video and a related video we think you might enjoy, so take a look. I've been Divok of the Artificers Guild, and I will see you next time.